Welcome everybody, and I am excited to bring you just a short preview of a game that is releasing into early access today. It's called The Plague Kingdom Wars. It is a sequel to a game that many of you probably played before called Medieval Kingdom Wars, and it's got a lot of great features that I'm really excited to show you. Now, I just want to say up front, this is a small three-man indie team, as it says right here. This game is going to be in early access until probably next spring in 2021, but it's already got a lot of great features, and I just want to give you a few of the highlights. I'm not going to do a full playthrough today. I just want to show you some of the highlights of what this game's all about, talk a little bit about what it has to offer, and why you might be interested in checking this out. So, The Plague Kingdom Wars is set during the medieval times when the plague, obviously, is going to be kind of the big what if factor in all of this. And you can take on, in the campaign mode, the role of any minor noble or all the way up to a king. And there are a ton of available options as far as who you can play. You can play pretty much anybody you want to. And the different nations are going to have different cultures to them. They said there's going to be 4 distinct cultures in this game when it's completely finished. And those cultures are going to be the Western culture, that'd be, France, England, those nations. Southern culture, you've got Slavic culture, and then Muslim culture. And you can see within each one of these nations that you can choose. So say you choose the Kingdom of Cyprus. Now, you've got Vasilko Alexandrovich is who you can choose. But some of the bigger ones, like the Ottoman Empire, you've got different options as far as who you can choose to be. You see what territories you start with, what your renown is when you're starting, and what your standing is when you're starting. And you can cycle through and see there's the Republic of Genoa, there's the Venetian Republic, Kingdom of Sicily. So these are all the different Italian places that you can be. You can be the Golden Horde. Here are some of the Muslim culture nations. Principality of Kiev. These are going to be more of your Slavic ones. And you can go through all of these. Serbia. There's the Kingdom of France. And you've got a bunch of options as far as who you can be in the Kingdom of France. You can see all of these here, and you can click on. There's also the Dead Rising DLC, and I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But here's the Kingdom of England. That's what I'm going to choose to start. We've got Earl Benedict Baltimore, and he starts with King's Lynn and Ipswich. And I'm going to choose, I think, we're going to go with Duke Richard of York. So we're going to start in the northern part of England. We have York City as far as Lincoln, Towton, Carlisle, and Newcastle. So you've got battle difficulty, campaign difficulty. I'm going to go easy for now, just to make it a little easier for me. Let's dive in and take a look.
Suffered painful setbacks between 1200 and 1260. As one weak king after another surrendered their provinces on the continent to France.
So what's cool is every one of the nations has this kind of unique intro like this.
The resourceful young Edward III came to power.
One of the greatest kings in English history, Edward III.
1336, England is plotting the reconquest of her ancestral French provinces, even while dealing with an invasion from Scotland and working to forge alliances with the other great states of Europe.
All right. The plague is coming. As a noble in your king's service, you must get ready to face the impending pandemic. Visit your towns to develop your industry and oversee improvements. Within a few months, prepare to defend your holdings from enemy raids. Soon you can start to cautiously expand, but beware of rival lords from your own kingdom until you are powerful enough to fight for the throne. Okay, so when you first load up the screen, this is what you get. And it's cool because it's very intuitive and it's very user-friendly because you've got kind of an advisor here who tells you what's going on in the world. It's 1347. This is right before the plague hits Europe. Comes over from on ships that come from the east and land, I think, in Italy is where it first hit. What do you recommend? So we can say right off the bat, hey, what do you recommend? The economy is weak. You should manage your estates directly by visiting your towns and controlling things firsthand. However, your lordship only has that much time in a month or town visits, so be smart about it. So you only have so much time. This game is kind of a combination of real-time strategy, but also grand strategy. And there is combat and all that kind of stuff going on. So what about the military? Our king finds himself currently at war, thus enemy lords are sure to be showing up at our doorsteps within a month or two. Consider sending an army to loot enemy hamlets. Okay, what news of the plague? I don't think the plague has really hit yet. But that's obviously going to be the story that is interwoven. So it's really kind of a game where we're trying to build a kingdom, but we also have to understand that the plague's going to hit and throw all of this off. So let's go ahead and take a look at the interface here. We can see over here, here's the personal time that we have. So this increases each month that passes. Our character can enter any town and control construction and economy in real time. So that's kind of a cool, unique feature, this idea of personal time that you can spend. Here we have the treasury, and we have how much silver we have available. Here it looks like we are losing food, so obviously we're going to have to take care of food right away. Let's take a look at what else. We've got wood, and we've got a slight bonus on wood coming in. Stone. Resource cap, that's our storage capacity. Here's the number of citizens we have. And one of the things that is true about the plague is that the plague hit so badly that it took a century or more for the economies to recover. Because remember, suddenly you're losing half your workforce. And so there were farms that were completely empty, and it just devastated economies such as England. So it's got a great kind of a tutorial to get you into things. Even, some games only have a tutorial where you have to play through the tutorial and it has one unique nation and one unique perspective. This tutorial is available no matter who you choose to jump in as. So it says, you are merely a minor lord in our kingdom, and some of these towns you see are yours. The rest belong to our king and your fellow lords. Your towns have your heraldry icon both on the left and right of their banner. You can also find your towns on the mini-map at the right bottom. They are marked in white. I'll give you a moment to locate and then introduce you to your court. So you can see here on the mini-map down on the bottom right, these kind of northern England, York, this area is what is mine. So the next thing it's going to tell me are each of the four members.
Record thine every need.
Oh, interesting. And I should mention, too, you can see here where it says online. This game does have an online multiplayer mode, which adds a ton of replayability to it. Because I can get used to it, get my feet wet playing as any of these nations against the computer. But look at how many different areas there are throughout the world that you can be a part of. And then to imagine that you can do this in multiplayer, I'm excited about that. So this is the area that I control. I control Yorkshire, which includes Towton, Lincoln, Newcastle, York. You can see I can enter the city. So let's go ahead and do that. And I love the artwork in this. It's got all that old plague artwork, that really kind of dark artwork that was made about the things that were happening. I really love how they immerse you into the world that way. Okay, so now we're looking at Towton, which is one of our towns. Welcome to this beautiful town, my lord. Let's not dally, as your lordship only has this much time to visit. Remember, we've got personal time. You can see it's ticking down now. So let's locate some building plots. They have a banner on top of them that look like construction sites. So you can see the construction sites that we have available. And apparently this is our army here. There's our English levies.
Ready to hunt your grace.
Ready to hunt your grace. Oh, I love that. It sounds like talking like Game of Thrones, which a lot of the guys in Game of Thrones had that kind of northern Yorkshire accent. So we can see here silver, the food, the wood, all of the stuff that's available in this particular town, and then their happiness. So we can destroy units, we can actually give commands. So here's the real-time strategy aspect to this coming into play. We can actually give orders to the armies.
Let's take the walk, lads.
And then when you click on cinematic view, it closes off everything here, and you can actually just kind of look at what's happening. So that's pretty cool. So let's upgrade some of your walls. Large towns usually have 5 wall options, and hamlets have just 1 wall point at level 2, but gain another wall point at level 3. Select a wall point and order wall construction. Okay, cool. Let's do that. So while your walls are building, you can upgrade most of your buildings, which is very important as each level increases buildings' productivity by 50%. So right here in the manor is where you can build new units. You can upgrade building level, train English levies, train English yeomen. You can repair the building. You can open the gates. So here's one of the building plots. Here's another one right here. And you can see what is available at each one of these. Industry build menu, town build menu, military build menu. So industry gives us stone mines, silver mines, lumber camps, forager huts, and hunters' lodges. Town menu gives us storehouse, herbalist, and that's it right now. Military build menu gives archery range and barracks. Oh, and siege workshops as well. So right over here is where we have our walls, and we can buy a palisade fort upgrade. Now, you can see here there's actually a way to slow down time, and especially since you have a certain amount of personal time, it's very helpful to be able to do that. So the way that this personal time works is it only gets spent while you're actually in a town. So you have to be really careful with that, because when you go into a town to start making changes like building new things, you got to kind of know what you're doing. You can't just dilly-dally around looking in the town, thinking about things. That's the real-time strategy aspect to it. So when you're doing fighting, when you're doing building, that time goes down. When you're in this campaign map, that doesn't happen. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the different advisors we have.
To assist, my lord.
So here we have tactics that we can research. And you can see what some of these are. You can globally implement some of these things. Carpenting traditions, masonry, reinforced gates. So there's a lot of really cool upgrades you can make to your towns, to your defenses, to your economy, even to the church. Church doctrine that God had only one son significantly slows discontent in the populace. So you can kind of manage this stuff depending on what you need at any given moment. And there's a lot of these. Tactics, town, economy, church, common military, the military. And you can see how these different things allow new weapons, new strategies, new armor, blast furnaces, field armor, leather brigandines. There's a lot of depth to the research part of this, with 8 different areas of research that you can go through. Here we have our martial screen, and you can see our army is the York army, and it's 24. I don't know if that's 24 men or if that's the strength of that, but you can locate your army. Here it is.
Our Lord commands.
We've got English yeomen, some levies as well, and then we've got 1 battering ram, and we can use this army then to attack a town. We can recruit new units, we can transfer units. So here's our recruitment screen. We don't have a lot of options right now because we haven't unlocked most of the stuff, but you can see trebuchets are available, English foot knights, English heavy cavalry, friars. You can get chickens. Chickens generate a small monthly food income throughout the year. They're more productive inside hamlets where you oversee the town. They generate food for armies during battles, but not while on the world map. So obviously an army needs food, so those are going to help. This is really cool. I love the depth. I love the unique way that they've done this. Here's our diplomacy. Our standing with the Kingdom of England is 15. We're at war with Scotland, Castile, which is Spain, and France. You can see all of what's going on, my lordship, my standing, my treasury, my holdings currently. Here are all the other English noblemen, including King Edward III right there. And then you see, of course, who we're at war with, who we're at peace with. So, man, I'm excited to dive in and explore all of this stuff. And as I mentioned, you have this amount of personal time, and it does roll over, kind of like your minutes on a phone. So when you hit a new month, like right now we're in July of 1347, and you can see the wheel turning. So we can actually slow that time down as well. You're going to add new time every month that you'll be able to use. So it does add up. What I want to do now is I want to just... since we've taken a look at the basics for building and research, I want to take a look at combat. So let's go ahead and take our army into an attack situation. And we'll have to find a target for that, and we'll take them out for a spin. So it was as simple as, it looks like we hit a new month. It's August. You can see our taxes that were collected, our silver generated, our upkeep costs, our trade income. You can see anything new that's happening in the world. We're marching our army north toward Edinburgh, and we're going to go ahead and attack Edinburgh. I have no idea if this is a wise move. I just want to let you see what the combat looks like. You can see we did add a little bit more personal time, only about 2 hours or so, 2.5 hours. The movement for your army is just as simple as left-clicking on your army and then right-clicking on where you want to go. So it's actually pretty simple. We're getting in close to Edinburgh now. I don't know if we'll attack automatically, if there's anything we need to do to make that happen. So all I had to do was click on my army and click on Attack Town. And since I'm close enough to the town, we're able to attack. And it looks like Berwick Thane of Cawdor, the Kingdom of Scotland. He's got a pretty significant force, obviously stronger than mine. So you can auto-resolve that, or you can actually go in and fight. We're going to go in and fight, and I don't think we're going to win. It obviously looks pretty one-sided for us as far as the combat power goes, but I want you to at least see the combat mechanics. Okay, so I just selected all of my army, like so.
A keen eye and a quiver full of arrows.
And I've given them orders. All I did was I right-clicked, and then you can kind of choose the direction you want them to be facing. So can you actually build things? I guess you can. So this is kind of like a real-time strategy aspect to it, where you're building things to sustain, and you can just go ahead and attack, I guess. We had it paused there for a minute.
Need help, my lord.
Let's go ahead and attack right into his town here and see what happens. They're not running scared or anything like that. They just kind of seem to be chilling. We're going to attack the manor. That's kind of the main center of all this. Now, he had an army, but I'm not seeing it. There it is.
Muck 'em up, lads.
All right, let's get those bowmen firing. I probably shouldn't have brought my... Oh, here they come.
Sword must out upon them.
So the nice thing is it automatically kind of... You can do it manually, but when you tell your whole army to attack, your melee units move up front. Your archers do stay in the rear. I'm going to get my archers to, if I can,
A keen eye and a quiver full of arrows.
to fire on his. Obviously, I'm going to lose this. He's coming in with his battering rams. Oh, man, you can see the blood that's happening right here. Now, honestly, there's not really any way that I can see to know if I'm winning or not. And there's various stances, defensive.
How poor are they that have not patience?
Stand your ground, be aggressive. That charges and attacks enemies with insight. Hold position, only attack enemies within range.
My souls in arms and eager
Formations
for
that
the
you can choose, probably depending on what you've researched so far. There's tight formation, loose formation. Yeah, see, certain ones like skirmish formation require classical warfare theory in order to be able to do. So obviously there was no way I was going to win that combat, but I wanted you to be able to see what the combat looked like in this. He looks like he's pursuing some of my retreating forces now. And when you highlight over one of your units, you get a great deal of information about them, which I can't see now because they're running away. But that gives you a little bit of a sense of the combat. So that's really just an overview of the basics of how the game looks. This was not intended to be a in-depth look at every aspect of the game, and at some point, if you guys like this, I will be glad to play through a full kind of playthrough of this. And we haven't even touched on all the mechanics of what happens when the plague hits. And I mentioned at the beginning, there's this downloadable content that'll be available that has this aspect of like undead hordes, whereas people get the plague, they turn into zombies, and then you have to deal with those, and that kind of gives another level of replayability to this. But let me just read to you real quick some of what they say on the Steam page, and then I'll put a link in the description for you to go check it out for yourself. By the time you see this video, I believe the game will be available in early access. And so let me read to you. Plague Kingdom Wars is a sequel to Medieval Kingdom Wars that was built on the foundation of the original game. With our current early access build, better than half of the game has been remade from the ground up, and gameplay has evolved in new directions. A greatly expanded world map and new plague mechanics are just the beginning. There are hundreds of new lords to play as and over 30 new nations to conquer and control. So let's talk a little bit about that. All game modes are currently available, and all playable factions are currently playable. So in this early release, the basics of the game are there. There's not really anything major that's missing. They said the game does require a lot of polish and balancing, which due to the scope of the game will take several months. In addition, right now the game uses some assets from its prequel, Medieval Kingdom Wars, and while it looks quite different, And these assets do fit. We do plan to replace all of them with original art during early access. The intro itself says it's 1347, the time of the Black Death Plague and 100 Years' War. You take on the role of one of 200 minor lords or kings from the time period. Be a minor noble in the Ottoman Empire, or an earl in Ireland, or the Emperor of Byzantium, and rewrite history by fighting to preserve your empire and prevent the spread of the Black Death across Europe. You bear the burden of leadership and must decide how to keep your people safe. Act swiftly using diplomacy or military might, but do not hesitate, or the consequences will be dire. History has shown the critical importance of sound leadership in times of great crisis, even as we face these dangers now. So this is going to be kind of the first game ever to really full-scale deal with a pandemic and your response to it. So I haven't shown that because the plague hasn't hit yet at this point in the game. But that's going to define everything about how you play this. Right now it's just a simple strategy game where you're building up your territory, you're building your towns, you're conquering armies, things like that. But then the plague hits and everything's going to shift into, how do I keep my people safe? How do I keep this from spreading? What do I need to do? That's all stuff that you'll have to deal with in this game. So if you like this and you want to see more, let me know in the comment section below, and I will. I'll play a full playthrough as one of the minor nobles if you'd like to see more. And if you don't, that's okay. Let me know that too. But definitely take a deeper look at this game. Click on the link, go over to the Steam page and check it out for yourself. And I hope you enjoyed this very early overview look at this great new strategy title. Thanks for watching, guys.